Alright, my lovers, welcome back. This is Wildsmatic. Thank you very much for joining me again. So this video will be a continuation of the skills and builds guide, which I know many of you have watched already. In that series so far we've had 4 videos, very high level overview so far. Episode 1 looked at combat skills, episode 2 looked at signs, episode 3 did a very quick overview of alchemy, and episode 4 looked at how do you pull all those together to build, to create a build. So it looked at the mechanisms within the game and the interface which give you the ability to craft. So without question the most popular video so far has been the alchemy. An awful lot of people watching that, and with good reason. Alchemy seems to be a really good build for survivability in Witcher 3. So I'm going to do a couple of videos which I'm calling the alchemy tank videos, starting with this one, which is going to look at level 20 what sort of build can get you to a good level of damage absorption and mitigation, and still dish out some fairly high DPS as well. It's going to be a hybrid of alchemy and combat skills. So in fact at level 20 no points put into signs whatsoever. I am going to do a couple of other videos in the near future looking at an alchemy tank build using bombs, and an alchemy tank build using signs as well, but for now this will focus on a hybrid between alchemy skills predominantly and then some combat skills as well. Just as a pointer, in terms of stat priority, this build can go any one of a number of different ways, and it depends on how you want to build your character. I stress, this is just one build of many that I found really good to play. It's really useful, it's really fun, and it's certainly improved my survivability in the game. If you have at the back of your mind, in Witcher 3, in terms of a tank build or the way you play Geralt, I would prioritise, in terms of tanking builds with alchemy, 3 things. Priority number 1, damage avoidance. The best inbound damage is the damage that never hits you. So in Witcher 3 there are a number of different ways you can achieve damage avoidance. For a simple example, dodge. If the damage never hits you, then you don't need to worry about it. Priority number 2, the damage that does hit you, damage mitigation. How do you mitigate the effects of that inbound damage? Again, whole raft of number of different ways that you can mitigate that damage. Heavy armor, which is used, these builds are using heavy armor. The purpose of these builds is to think about using the heavy armor in the game. Quen, you can use Quen as a sign, as a shield, or you can create an incredibly high hit point pool, so your vitality can go up. Therefore the damage that does get through your armor, if it does hit you, the percentage detraction from your overall hit pool is low. So keep that in mind. Priority 1, damage avoidance. Priority 2, damage mitigation. And then obviously priority number 3 in any build is you've got to put some damage out there. So priority 3 in terms of these alchemy tank builds is your offensive damage, your offensive skills. So let's dive in and have a look. I have cleared all my skills and abilities in this character. At level 20 I have these 3 skill building trees open to me. So there we go. So I'm going to focus, I'm not going to look at damage mitigation, despite the fact that I've just said priorities are 1, 2, 3, avoidance, mitigation, and then offensive. I'm going to actually build some offensive skills in to start with, so that we know we have something. So the iPad's pinging at me, I need to switch that off. So that we know we have something that's going to put some damage out there, and our fights just don't go on forever. Like I've said, this is an alchemy combat hybrid. Now my personal preference, and this works quite well if you're using oils, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. My personal preference is fast attacks. I dive in, hit a couple of quick attacks, dive out again. That's my preferred combat style. You could, with this build, use the strong attacks, put points into that, and then just dive in. Strong attacks ignore armor, so they're really good if you just want to swing your sword, one big attack, blat. The problem with that is when you're fighting things like neckers that have very fast attack speeds, a lot of interrupts, it takes a long time to do any damage. But that said, my preference is fast attacks. You could, as I've said, go for strong attacks. So I'm going to start off by putting 5 points into that. That gives me an increase of 25% in attack damage and 5% adrenaline point gain, which in combat is, your adrenaline point gain is very important. Now at level 20, that's all I'm going to do in this build for now. Everything else will come from the alchemy trees, and this is because I'm building my ability to sustain damage, to mitigate damage, but also the ancillary benefits of alchemy. So if you put points into the alchemy tree, these points benefit every single potion and decoction that you can make. So in terms of varying a build, if you were to put points into signs, you can only put points into signs for Ard, Igni, Yrden, Quen and Axi. Now that's great, and you can have variations of these further down the skills tree, but they all basically achieve the same things. If I put those points into alchemy, if I move down that skill tree maybe, and then maybe move down this skill tree for mutagens, I can then vary the benefits of those points by using different decoctions. So these points will apply to whatever decoction, potion and mutagen that I use. And if you can hear that phone in the background, I'm terribly sorry, but it's probably a sales call, so I'll ignore it. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to be able to apply as many decoctions and potions to myself as possible. So increasing my toxicity, my tolerance of toxicity is priority number one. So I'm going to put 5 points into heightened tolerance. There we go. So straight away, I've increased my potion overdose threshold by 5%. I've also increased the potion duration time by 25%. Very, very important. You can get, at level 20, I've had my potion durations up to 1 hour and 6 minutes for decoctions. It's a lot of playtime. Okay, now for this build, I'm not going to touch oils at the moment. With fast attack speeds, oils are a worthy consideration, because if you increase the 3% chance of poisoning the target on each hit and you times that by 5 and you're doing fast attack speeds, you can dive in, slash, you've got 3 attacks, 3 times 15% chance of applying that poison, and then you dive out again, and whilst you're dodging and rolling around, you're still doing some damage. There's still a dot on the monster, whatever you're fighting. It's worthy of consideration for this build. I'm not going to put any points into it at this time. You could if you wanted to. I'm going to increase my tolerance further, because I actually want to use maybe 2, possibly if I can stretch it, 3 decoctions at any one time. So I'm going to put 3 points into that. So there we go. So every known alchemy formula that I have now increases my maximum toxicity by 1. Again, that scales. So the more formulas I buy, the higher my maximum toxicity gets. Got a mouthful. And the more decoctions I can take. So the only downside to this build, if you're going down this route, is at the start of the game you are limiting your toxicity, your maximum toxicity. It's probably a very slow burn build. I've played through the game so far using a signs build, where I actually take an awful lot of damage and I have to do a lot of rolling around and dodging. Once I got to about level, I think it was level 17, I jumped into an alchemy builds, and for the last 3 levels I've been playing with these builds, with bombs and with signs and alchemy and combat. So my suggestion would be, at the outset of the game, this isn't a skill tree that you would go for. Get to about maybe level 15, get some potions under your belt, and then clear your abilities and rebuild using alchemy. I would suggest trying lots of different builds anyway, because to be honest, it's just so much fun. I mean, the possibilities in all of these skill trees is fantastic to play with. So anyway, there we go. We've got 8 points. We've unlocked the second tier of the skill tree. So again, let's have a look. I'm not going to put any points in oils. I'm not going to put any points in bombs, because that's not part of this build. And that Endure Pain and Frenzy at the moment is a consideration to get me to a 3rd tier should I need to. Okay, so every potion dose that I imbibe heals 5% of maximum vitality. Well, in combat I tend to use Thunderbolt and Swallow at the moment, which is a heal in itself, but having an instant heal, yeah, I like that, so I'm going to put 5 points in there. Again, the higher your toxicity gets, the more potions you can take in combat, the more heals you can apply to yourself as well. So there's ancillary benefits there. You take a potion, you get an instant heal, and you get the benefits of that potion as well. It's really quite OP, as somebody posted on my made a comment on the last alchemy video this morning. Now, using your mutagens here in these diamond-shaped boxes to boost the skills and the abilities that you have already is quite phenomenal. So, hey, do you know what? When consumed, mutagen decoction increases maximum vitality by 200. Oh, am I looking at the wrong one? Right, okay, so I know I'm going to use lots of decoctions, and I know that I'm in an alchemy tank build, so I want to boost my vitality. So I'm going to put points into that. Now, it's worth keeping an eye as we go through this video. On the right-hand side there, my vitality is currently at 7,221, which at level 20 is quite high for where there's no abilities in. But as we go through this build, just have a look at where the DPS and the armor and the the vitality and the DPS changes. The sign intensity shouldn't go up too much. Okay, so now we've got this situation where I've worked down the tolerance. I've worked up the tolerance, sorry, for heightened tolerance, and now I've got into the second tier, and I've increased my vitality by 1,000 for the decoction's duration. So each decoction I take will boost my health by 1,000. Now I should, once this build's finished, be able to take 2 decoctions at any one time. That will boost my vitality from 7,221 that you see now to 9,221. So it's starting to look even better. But I need something else. I need something else to get me to that third tier. Now, this is where you can make your own judgment call. You could put potion points into Trial of the Grasses if potion toxicity is above 0, time slows when an enemy is about to form a counterattack. I actually don't think that's of any benefit for me. So I will look at Endure Pain, increases vitality by 10% when toxicity exceeds the safe threshold. I don't intend on doing that either. So for this particular build, given that I have chosen to do fast attacks, boost my fast attack speeds here, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to put some points into oils. Now 5% protection against attacks from the monster type the oil targets for me is too specific. That means that every single fight, if I want to gain the benefit, I have to look and go, oh, there's some neckers over there, quick jump off your horse and use this oil, use this necrophage oil, or use that spectre oil. So I don't want that. I want something that's going to sit on my sword. I want to be able to so I'm going to take a couple of points in here. Now at this point in time, I'm only going to take enough points to get me to the third tier. So how many is that? How many do I need? Okay, so 2 points in there. That gives me a 6% chance of poisoning the target on each hit, and with fast attack speeds, when I jump in I might do 2, maybe 3 attacks, so that's 18% chance of poisoning. So again, it plays to the combat skills that I've picked. Now let's have a look at the next one. So the delayed recovery, potion effects don't wear off until potion toxicity falls to 90% of the maximum level. That skill, bear that in mind, is directly at odds with this, where the toxicity drops 1 point per second faster. So here's the decision you need to make at this point in time. Do I want to take 2 or 3 decoctions and have them sustain, and in a fight, if you keep taking potions, your toxicity stays above that 90% level, you don't have any deterioration in the time. So if you don't drop below 90%, potion effects don't wear off, and I think that applies to decoctions as well. Or do you actually want to let your toxicity reduce even faster so you can keep taking more decoctions and more potions? That's a decision you will have to make depending on what your preferred playstyle is. This is, for me, where I want to put the remaining 5 points at level 20, because increasing the bonus for mutagens placed in a mutagen slot by 50%, I think that becomes, you will see when we put the mutagens in here that you get an enormous boost. So let's, for example, let's put the just to give you an example. So I know I have a greater green here somewhere amidst all this crap. There you go, there's a greater green. So let's drop that into there, And now let's go back to our skills and say, okay, so I know that I definitely need this, and I get plus 300 vitality. I know that I definitely need that for the heals. And I'll tell you what, let's say I'm going to get my tolerance up first. So that, then I get a vitality of 450. And then let's say Mutagen Decoction increases maximum vitality. Oh, yeah, I want the hit points. So I'll have that plus 600. Okay. And now, if I go and find another greater mutagen, let's just do them all. Let's just put all the points in right now. I don't think I have another greater green. I'm pretty sure that I don't. One of the downsides of the Xbox is like, oh, there you go, got one. Perfect. Drop that in there. Now go back to our skills, and the remainder that I have to drop in is that, and that, and that's the 5. Okay, so if I now say let's take this, increase the bonus for mutagens placed in the mutagen slot by 10%, and I put my remaining 5 points in there, and now I drop that in, bang, straight away you can see the vitality boost from the greater green mutagens has gone to plus 900. That is a phenomenal boost. So that's given me my alchemy build. Don't forget, I don't get the benefit of the fast attacks unless I apply it. So I do, unfortunately, now have to have that. And now I want the boosts to attack speed. And I don't think I have a greater red. I have a red. Okay, so let's just put the red in there for now. And that will give me attack power of plus 21%. So we have vitality of 9021. Silver Sword DPS of 617 and Steel Sword of 437. Now, if I've done my calculations correctly, I should benefit from taking decoctions, and I should see an enhancement to those abilities. Those stats, sorry. So I would normally take a vitality boosting decoction, and I would take that one. All alchemy creations can be used one additional time. So I can actually get, at this point in time, more uses out of my potions. So let's just pick a valid. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to use, and there you go. So I now still have some toxicity left over, so I can probably take at level 20 one more potion. So let's say I want to, what have I got slotted in at the moment? So I've got Thunderbolt, and so if I take a Thunderbolt now, and then go to my character screen, I can see that I've now boosted my DPS with my Silver Sword from 617 to 739, and my Steel Sword from 437 to 519. And my vitality, because I've taken the decoctions and the potions, has now jumped to 11,021. Now, that's not a bad amount of damage, and that's not a bad amount of health to mitigate. So there's your build. I found it works really well for me. If you couple that with some heavy armor, that will give you a very, very tanky alchemy build. I've fought a couple of bosses on this, done a few Witcher contracts. A couple of the mobs were about 3 levels higher than me and didn't have any problem whatsoever. So if you were going to look at finishing off this build, an additional thought, 2 things that you should probably focus on, given that the build is based around fast attacks. To get down to the next tree, I would ignore the reflexes, I would ignore the crossbow for this build, it's not important, and not have any points in strong attack at all. So I put, I understand we've got a total of 85 points, so there's 69 points plus 1 to be found through levelling up, and then 16 I think, or 15 points from places of power. So you have your 5 points in muscle memory, which is your fast attack, to get down to the next tier, I would put the points into battle trance, and then I would alternate between getting your points in precise blows, for example, 5 points there. How many points? Oh, sorry. So you need 20 points to get to there. So you've got 5 and 5 there, and then 5 points in your battle trance, and then 5 points in your precise blows. So I would go for that route. You could, if you wanted to, build more tanky and put some points into fleet-footed defense, but I think with the alchemy build being so strong in defense, I would probably put my points into adrenaline. Put my abilities into the adrenaline point focus. It's an option. You could look at your fleet-footed. Damage from hits received while dodging is reduced by 20%. That's quite good. I mean, if you put 5 points into that, does that mean you get 100% reduction in damage taken while dodging? That's pretty good. So I would consider looking at fleet-footed or defensive, but definitely put your 5 points into precise blows. Again, I would go all the way down the fast attacks tree, so I would take the fast attack spinning attack. Now that apparently uses stamina and adrenaline to sustain, so anything that will boost your adrenaline points here. Gain an adrenaline point when entering combat, times that by 5, then I'm guessing you're gaining full adrenaline points. When casting a sign, 3 adrenaline points will be consumed. Probably not fussed about that. So you can see what you're trying to get to is boost your offensive skills, take all of this tree for your fast attacks, maximise those out and make them your primary focus for damage output. You might consider Sunder Arm. No, you wouldn't, because you haven't got strong attacks. So forget that. You might consider looking at some of the points in here, but I would go for any skill that gives you an enhancement to adrenaline point gain. That's a good one, Deadly Precision, so you might consider grabbing that. But anyway, like I said, I will be doing finishing this build once I've finished it myself. Again, in your alchemy skill trees, you would probably want to take... You wouldn't want that. I don't think you'd want to extend the duration of your mutagen decoctions. An hour and 6 minutes is where we're at now. That's quite good. If potion toxicity is above 0, each opponent killed increases the chance for a critical hit. That's good. That plays well with the fast attacks, so you get your critical hits up by that, using that. Again, not using any bombs whatsoever, so ignore that. You might want to put some points into your oils. When adrenaline points are at their maximum, critical hit damage against the enemy is increased by 20%. So if you're going for enhanced adrenaline point gain, and you are going for fast attacks, you could grab that. Critical hit damage. You would probably... I would avoid using side effects. I don't like anything in my build which applies a random effect, simply because I personally like to know that everything that I'm putting into that fight, if it's a monster fight, is something that I've chosen. So there you go. There's plenty of options to choose from. Like I said, I will finish this build, I will play around with it, and I will come back with another video when I've got all of my 60, 70 points or 85 points. Might not be for a couple of weeks. And I'll finish this build off and let you know how the fast attacks and adrenaline point game works with critical hits, your critical hit chance. So again, thank you very much. If this has been useful, give us a like. Put a comment in if there's anything you'd like to see, or if you've got a build that's slightly different and you would want any of the people watching something else to consider, then feel free to drop a comment in on how you've changed your builds different to this. And as ever, if you want to see the next series of videos coming out around alchemy tank builds and then combat skills particularly, then give us a subscribe as well. Thanks very much, guys. Take care. I'll see you soon. Alright, my lovers.